Hey guys, happy Memorial Day weekend and welcome back to episode 4 of The Mysterious Huntsman. Tonight we have a special guest on from New Orleans. His name is Dark Waters and you're going to love his stories, I guarantee it. Just sit back, relax, and let's say hello to Dark Waters. All right, hey Dark Waters, and welcome to the Mysterious Huntsman podcast. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. Thank you for having me on, and I'm excited about getting to know you and spend some time with you, buddy.
Same here. Like I told you earlier, I've been listening to you for a while now, and your stories are amazing. Your accounts are amazing, and I'm just thinking, I'm in my detached garage. It's about 100 feet from my house, and I know after we get through talking, I'm going to be scared to walk back down by myself, but it's just the way it is. But what you going to do? That's all I can say is I love your stories, and obviously everyone else does too, man. And so if you don't mind, just tell me a little bit about how you got started and what's going on down in the great state of Louisiana.
Well, I think I started doing this in 2005, in November of 2005. And I started off because I wanted to share a lot of the paranormal things that happened to me. Also, that combined with the fact that, you know, I really like communicating and talking to people. Like being born and raised in New Orleans is one of those things where you don't have a choice but to talk to people all the time down here because, you know, truly Southerners truly are like polite and kind and outgoing people. And so it just gets to the point to where you develop the gift for gab and the ability to talk to people, and you enjoy actually talking to people where most people kind of shy away from it. So I started the Dark Waters channel then, and I said, hey, I'll just use the talents and skills that you developed, you know, growing up in the South. I didn't think that it would take off the way it did, honestly. You know, I didn't think it would like really blow up like it did, but it actually like went way beyond what I thought it would. And I'm actually happy about it. I'm really happy about it and excited about it. I enjoy doing this. I love talking to people, and I love getting real paranormal stories. You know, there's a segment of the population that kind of does paranormal stories, but they're fake. It's kind of creepypasta deal. And what I do is I talk to people who actually encounter something creepy and scary, and then I reconstruct and rebuild that creepy and scary encounter in an audio format, which is what, you know, people have heard, and that's what I've become popular for.
Right, yeah. And you've done very well in such a short amount of time. You got thousands of followers, and you have been on a lot of podcasts, or you've been on the radio with Coast to Coast, I believe. You've been on Midnight. You've got an incredible resume so far, just telling the stories of people that call into you, and I love it. And you've kind of inspired me to want to do something similar, which I don't have that gift or that awesome voice you have right now, but I just like hearing the real stories, like you said.
And when they talk to their families, there's no family member that's willing to support it. When they talk to their friends end up saying, oh, you freaking crazy. So, you know, we do a true service to people by talking to them and sharing information with them that will, that kind of puts them at ease. And that's what I really, really enjoy about this, you know. So the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned, man. The more people doing this, the better. And as you know, there's a whole hell of a lot going on in the world now that needs to be discussed. And I think we're going to need these voices in the near future because overall, people are getting ready to be forced to confront some things that they haven't been able to, or they haven't been disclosed to them. But I think they're going to be forced to confront some things where people are going to look to us and say, well, how do I find out information about UFO disclosure? And, you know, what the hell is the Anunnaki? And, you know, these different things that are going on. We're seeing this start to hit the mainstream media. So the timing is right for people like us to do what we do is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I think it's ramping up the whole supernatural biz. And I mean, if you're a believer, I mean, I think we're knocking on the door of the end times, man. I think we're seeing a lot of prophecy fulfilled out of the Bible, and it's just really ramping up. But yeah, it's And I agree with you. It's been kind of cathartic, I guess, to a lot of people just to be able to talk to someone that's not going to judge them or ridicule them. And I've had several to tell me, look, Paul, thank you for listening to me, and without, telling me I'm crazy, or without just, thinking that I'm nuts, or just, and a lot of times all I got to do is just sit there and listen, and they will talk and talk and talk. And then it helps them out. And, you kind of, like I said, it's kind of cathartic.
No, and that's what people need, man. That's what people need. You'll be amazed at the number of people that I've spoken to who don't want their encounters shared. They just want to talk to me because they know either I have an answer for them, or if I don't have an answer, I'm not going to make them feel like an idiot. And so the majority of my phone calls, just like you called me on that number, the majority of my phone calls are people who really just need an ear. They need to bend someone's ear back on what they've seen or what they've encountered, and they're looking for answers. And then we get to the point to where some people are like, okay, why don't you do my story? We'll make sure you do it right. And then I go through the process of doing the story, and I send it to them, and they listen to it. And the worst thing about kind of what I do is I go through the process of really talking to that person and digging I call it chunking down on their encounter. And sometimes when I recreate it, I hit it so spot on that the person experiences PTSD, all kind of crazy stuff. Man, I've recreated some encounters and played them back for people, and they were like, man, I couldn't sleep for days because it was so vivid, the picture that you painted with the words. And I was like, yeah, I just took your words and painted the same picture that you painted to me. So that's the only bad thing about it, is when you're really dealing with real people, you have to be responsible, to their encounters. But it's also what makes it so good, because it really is a person's encounters, the emotions that you capture and you relate through the story and the lessons. And that's the one thing that I don't think people understand. I was reading some comments the other day on my website, and one lady was saying, well, these stories seem to end abruptly. And I'm sitting there on my computer smoking a cigar, and I'm reading. I'm like, people, you don't really understand that when you listen to a creepypasta story that's a well-written story, people tie it up in a neat knot, in a neat bundle. Or when you watch a movie on Netflix, there's a plot, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that's it. Well, when you're dealing with people with real encounters, what ends up happening, sometimes the paranormal activity starts suddenly, and it stops suddenly, and it's just done. It's over, and there's nothing more to it. There's nothing more to say. And I think people want things to be, they expect things to be like a movie. And as you know, life doesn't flow that way. Life has its ups and downs, its ebbs, its flows, and sometimes things come and they just go. And if you do the right thing to get rid of some of the paranormal activity, it has to go. It has no choice but to go. So, but overall, man, I really, really enjoy doing this. I enjoy the networking part where I meet new people like you, and we can talk and become friends and help each other grow. And I really love doing this.
Yeah. And man, I was going to say, you're brave just giving out your number. I mean, it's obvious that people can contact you directly any time of the day or night, and you'll listen to them. And that, I mean, and maybe it's not brave, but it's very nice of you to open yourself up to everyone like that.
Well, I mean, if you want, the way I see it is this: if you really want to capture the truth, you have to be vulnerable to a certain extent.
Right.
I'm vulnerable, but I'm not stupid. You know what I'm saying? But I'm vulnerable enough to where you can call me and talk to me and share your encounter with me. But then at the end of the day, I'm a dude from New Orleans too. So it's like, okay, there's only so much, so far we gonna go with certain things. So, I used to get people calling me at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I used to get I would get people who called me at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And, eventually it's like, listen, bro, what the hell is wrong with you? Why you calling me this time of morning? You're bugging out. And if they don't stop, then I start calling them at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't sleep. I'm calling you. Like, man, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. After you did me, you bastard, I'm doing it to you.
I don't blame you. Well, one of my you're talking about being from New Orleans, and I've been there several times. Beautiful place, a lot of rich history, rich culture, and the food is outstanding. I eat a little too much when I come down there, but a lot of people don't realize that New Orleans has such a dark side to it. If you know where to look, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And if I've heard so many stories from you talking about New Orleans, and I think one of the biggest ones that keeps standing out in my brain is the dogman. That's a very scary and apparently very real to a lot of people phenomenon, and it's all over the country, if not international. So, I mean, if you don't mind, tell me what you got going on down there with the dogman, or heck, anything else you want to throw in there.
Well, so down here we don't call it dogman, we call it the rougarou. Some people call it loup-garou. And
That's
they kind
right.
of go back and forth with the pronunciation of the name. Like, you mispronounce the name, and I'm like, shut the hell up. You know what I'm talking about, you know. But the truth of the matter is, you got two different types of dogman encounters. You have a real flesh and blood dogman encounter like the gentleman had in New Orleans East, where one of my earlier stories, he was a former Army Ranger, and he literally got trapped where there was a train in between him and a dogman, and he had to pretty much run along the side of the train to get away from it. And then you have demonic encounters where there are things that are manifesting that are kind of mimicking and manifesting themselves to look like a dogman, right? So kind of put it in a nutshell,
Right.
Those are the two type of encounters that you have. And then if you were looking at like a whiteboard, you had written on the left, you know, physical manifest, physical dogman, on the right, you know, demonic manifestation. When you come down below that, what you run into is this plethora of information. Some of it's real, some of it's fake, but it's just an overload of information in the marketplace right now about it. And when I say marketplace, I use that word specifically because, you know, it's a topic that's heavily monetized and people can make money off of it. But when you really want to get down into the true nature of the encounters, these things are very, very, the physical ones, which do exist, are extremely terrifying. And they have a knack for intimidating people. The best way to put it is, you know how in growing up as a kid, you know, when you get into your early 12, 13 years of old age, people start taking on their personalities, right? You know, you go through puberty and you come into your own personality, and that person that you knew at 8 or 9 years old suddenly morphs. And some people turn to where they're kind of sadistic and mean and kind of cunning, and that's the personality type. And I use personality type when I talk about dogman because there's different personality types of these creatures. Those are the type of that's the personality type that you see here in Louisiana where people have encounters. It's really, really terrifying things that happen to people. For example, one of the ones that I talked about a couple of years ago in Morgan City, where this man came home at night, and down in Morgan City, and it's in the news right now, people's houses are on stilts. And the reason why is because Morgan City is a part of the Morganza Spillway. We're about to have to open that Morganza Spillway again down here because the Mississippi River is about to flood. And the way you keep Baton Rouge and New Orleans from going underwater is you open the Morganza Spillway. That's kind of a sideboard note. But the reason why I say that is that they build their houses on stilts in Morgan City. And so typically people park under their house, especially in the floodplain, and you go up and climb the steps to go up into the house. Well, this guy comes home one night, and he parks under the house, and as he gets out of the car, he realizes there's a gigantic wolf pretty much standing on two legs looking at him. Freaks out, hops out of the car, runs upstairs into the house, gets his shotgun, comes back outside, steps out into the driveway and is looking for it. Now it's on his roof, and it's looking down on him from the roof. And it's grinning at him, and when I say grinning, like showing his teeth, that's a better way to say it. Snarling at him is a better word. And when I talked to him, it was the funniest thing. I said, bro, listen, how do you process something like that in the moment? And he said, I couldn't process it, man. He said, I really couldn't. He said, initially, I told myself when I was getting out of the car and I saw this thing, I told myself that I was hallucinating. He said, until I heard the growl. Then after I heard the growl, I realized whatever it was real. And he literally left his car door open, ran upstairs into his house, grabbed his shotgun, came back outside because his wife and kids were inside. And he's like, you're not going to get my wife and kids. And then it's on top of his roof of his house, where the house is up on. So you got to understand the athleticism of these creatures. That's when I first started really learning about dogman and what it was capable of. And then the strategic manner, you think about how strategic that is. He goes into the front door of the house. He has to go up steps to get in the front door of the house. This thing climbs up on top of the roof some kind of way, or jumps up on top of the roof, then positions itself on the roof above the front door. When he comes back out, he doesn't see it until he turns around and looks and is right above where he came out of the door. And that's when I started to understand how intelligent, cunning, and actually conniving these creatures are. And that's when it really became terrifying to me. So I dug into it deeper and started taking phone call after phone call after phone call on a topic. And there were these common themes and these common threads. And that's how I figured out if someone was telling me the truth or they were lying. When you look at the physical manifestation of dogman, there's really two personality types. There's that very aggressive, kind of grimy, cunning, terroristic personality type. And then there's another personality type of these creatures that just kind of like, hey, get the hell out of my way. I'm going about my business. They'll look at you, they'll growl at you, and they'll go about their business. As long as you don't bother them, they won't bother you. So that kind of boils dogman down into a nutshell. People have taken a topic and kind of turns it into like a cake where you just put layer upon layer upon layer upon the cake. But it's really, really simple. They exist. They're out there. If you screw with them, you're going to have a problem. But there's a good chance that if you have an encounter, you'll be fine. But if you run across the wrong one, then you'll have major issues.
Right. And I'm not too familiar with the dogman. I mean, I've only just kind of heard that since you've come around in the past year or so. And then I heard about the reports up in like Wisconsin, like the Michigan dogman, or just kind of coming around.
Beast of Bray Road.
Oh yeah, absolutely, the Beast of Bray Road. And people kind of sometimes think that they're the same as reports of Bigfoot, and that's not true, is it?
No. So, people do think it's the same thing, but it's clearly two different creatures. So, for example, I have a friend of mine. I call him a friend because I talk to him enough. He has had the Bigfoot and dogman on his property. And when Bigfoot is on his property, he can actually manage to move around his property. Like his dog will go outside and run through the woods. It'll stay away from one area of the woods, but it'll run through the woods. He can get around and move around. He doesn't feel afraid. He's not scared. But he always knows when the dogmen are back on his property because his dog literally won't leave his side. So, like, imagine, you got, and this is a big dog, man. This is not like a little bitty dog. I've seen the dog. This dog is huge. You walk out of the door to go to the car, and your dog is keeping its body against your thigh and against your calf. As you walk, it's leaning on you, like rubbing against you the whole time.
Yeah.
So
something's up at that point.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. And so there's significant differences in how these two different cryptids affect people and affect animals. So no, they're two completely different things. I mean, from the way they interact with human beings, typically the Bigfoot stories that I've heard from people who really encounter Bigfoot have Bigfoot on their property. Bigfoot will leave them gifts. They'll leave rocks. They'll do all kinds of stuff. Now, you'll get a crazy one every now and then that goes all Kanye West and acts like, he's taking a trophy from Taylor Swift and starts throwing stuff at your house. But for the most part, they're cool. They're like, all right, I'm going to come watch you play and do what you do. You're like TV to them,
Yeah.
But dogman, that's not the case. Like, literally, they're up in trees looking down at people. And I'll share something with you that most people don't talk about. Now, I really didn't talk about it much, but because I didn't want to put it out there in the ethos for people to start stealing it and writing stories on it. But 90% of the terrifying dogman encounters involve them being in a tree. And I mean, literally, like the ones that people don't want me to tell, they're in trees, like up in the top of a tree. And they come down out of the top of the tree and either chase you, harass you, or attack you. And if people listen closely, you'll go back and listen to a lot of the stories that hunters have told me where they shoot a deer and they go to take it out of the woods, which I'm not a hunter, but, you know, I'm starting to learn more about, you know, hunting. Me being a New Orleans boy, just being, you know, it's hard enough to survive in the streets in New Orleans to worry about running around in the woods. But, you know, they'll shoot a deer and it runs off and they, okay, well, we got to track this deer down and you go ahead and cut it up and take the meat off the deer, right? Well, you track your deer down and it's not there anymore, but it's up in the freaking tree. And that happens over and over and over again. Yeah. And then you look up in the tree, a little higher in the tree, and there's a freaking wolf in the tree looking down at you, pissed off at you because it took your deer. So, and that's the most terrifying thing about it. Even my partner who has dogman and Bigfoot on his property, the most aggressive encounter he's experienced, or one of the most aggressive encounters he's experienced, is them being in trees, jumping from one tree to the other. And I told him, I said, hey, man, you know, they were on the trees because that's where they attack from. And he was like, oh, I could tell. He's like, I can really tell. He's like, because there was no way that he could see it. The only reason why he knew about it was because his dog was behaving kind of crazy, and then he heard it. He heard it jump from one tree to the next. He heard the claws rip onto the bark, and then he saw the tree swaying. And I'm like, yeah, you know, Bigfoot don't just jump from tree to tree like that, bro. They're relatively too big to be messing around like that. So, you know, dogman is a great cryptid topic to cover. People turn it into, they've morphed it into something that it's not. And it's really simple. You know, if you got dogman on your property and you can move. Just get away from it. You'll be fine. If you can't move, then there are certain little things you need to do, certain chemicals you need to keep around your property and spray around your property, which will keep them off. But other than that, you know, if you shoot at them, you got a problem. And I've spoken to people who shot at them, and they caught hell, man. They really did catch hell.
Yeah. Now, I was going to ask you. I grew up in South Alabama, so I'm kind of familiar with the whole Gulf Coast region. But we always heard about the Honey Island swamp monster. Was that more of a Bigfoot, or is that a Rougarou, or what do you think?
No, that was Bigfoot. No,
okay.
That's Bigfoot. That's definitely Bigfoot. In fact, I'm talking to a guy yesterday who owns a radio station down here. It's two things in Honey Island Swamp. There's Bigfoot, and then there's what do you call them? Necromancers. I think that's the people who have sex with dead bodies, right? That's necromancers, right?
Right. It's the act is called necrophilia, but the necromancers.
Necrophiliacs, yeah, necrophilia, yeah. There's Bigfoot, and then there's people who practice necrophilia inside of the Honey Island Swamp. Those are two crazy things that happen in that swamp.
Man, I think I'll stay out of that swamp.
Yeah, and that's what the gun range that I go to is, and you know, there's an outdoor gun range, and I always go there to shoot, and I take my kids there to shoot, and when it gets dark, my son's always like, well, Dad, why we get out there? Man, we're getting the hell out of here. We're not staying around here when it's dark. And one evening, we stayed there till it was right when the range was closing and everybody was getting out of there. It was getting dark. And, dude, as soon as the sun goes down, you get a weird and eerie feeling being out there. It's insane.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, and a lot of voodoo in that area, a lot of satanic worship, I'm sure. A lot. I mean, and when you start fooling with that kind of stuff, there's no telling what you're opening yourself up to or the region, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so you have, and I just tell you a story that happened today, man. One of the companies that I run is an insurance company. So I sell property insurance and boat insurance and a whole bunch of other stuff. That's one of the businesses that I run down here. And voodoo doesn't scare me. I go to this lady's house, and when I walk in, she's got all white on. and she's got this kind of white little, not turban, but this white headdress on. Walk in the house, and I said, "Wow, you look so beautiful. What you up to today, right?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just dressed up." And I was like, "Well, you're wearing all." I already know why she's dressed in all white. I'm looking around the place. She got voodoo candles, like voodoo and hoodoo candles all over the house. And I'm like, "Well, but I don't want her to know I know immediately." So I'm like, "Well, what you doing?" And her Bible's open, and she's like, "Well, I'm just trying to take care of myself and make sure I'm all right and things are okay." And so I look around and I make sure she sees me looking at the voodoo candles, which, there's different deities in that religion that, people can worship. And I say, "Well, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, well, I've been tussling with the spirits in this house." And I was like, "That's why you got the white head band on?" She's like, "Yeah, because when you tussle in the spirit world and in the spirit work, it'll turn your hair gray." And I was like, "I know, look at my head." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, I see some grays." I said, "Yeah, it will turn your head gray." And so it's one of those things to where that's a part of our culture. Some people make it out to be more frightening than what it really is.
Right.
Now, if you mess with the wrong person that's a hoodoo or voodoo practitioner, you're going to have some problems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those people, that doesn't bother me as much as kind of the Luciferians that are here in New Orleans. Like we got some serious, real deal satanic Luciferians here. Those are the ones that's kind of the problem, man. They really, really are.
Oh, wow.
Your hoodoo, hoodoo involves a lot of Bible magic. You know what I'm saying? And it's not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a completely bad thing.
Right.
Voodoo is the power and the spell casting side of voodoo. So you can get by dealing with some of those people if you need to. For the most part, they got morals and rules and regulations as to what they're going to do because they're worried about the karmic repercussions. But some of the other people, they just vicious and mean, man. They really are.
Yeah, and you were talking about the Luciferian. I think their strict goal is to just dominate, and it's like the satanic. I think one of their main things is only the strong survive, so they do whatever means necessary, to win. And they cast off. I'm sorry.
No, in some instances, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you were talking about. I'm kind of regressing here back, but I remember an episode where you actually went out with someone on either a Bigfoot. It's been a while, Bigfoot or dogman, an account, but he was going to take you or show you where it was or something, and he wound up leaving you behind because he got scared. Do you remember anything like that, or?
Yeah, I remember when that happened. Damn right, that was that's like right after I first started getting the dogman. I ended up going to Taylor, Mississippi with my partner. I want to call him by his nickname because I don't want people looking for him, but my partner Skip. And I believed in the topic, but I didn't fully believe in it. It was one of those cases where you're going to go see something, but you're not anticipating seeing it.
Right. Yeah.
Looking back on it, it was extremely foolish, but you have to go through those kind of things in order to learn and grow, in the world. You have to really come to your senses and understand, wait, no, this stuff is truly real. And with me being from New Orleans and being, spending the majority of my life in the city, not out in the woods, I had a mental block going into that experience. I'm like, okay, yeah, you told me these things are here, and you're not the type dude to lie, but I don't believe you. You know what I'm saying? It's like I was on the fence. After that, bro, I wasn't on the fence. I really wasn't on the fence. And to make a long story short, he left me there, but he didn't intentionally leave me there.
Oh, yeah.
He was so afraid because he had encountered it already that he just left, man. But it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to leave you here on purpose. It was, he was just that overwhelmed with fear. And then with me standing there, I came to realize exactly why he was so overwhelmed. And dude, I haven't been on any type of, well, actually I did go to that Honey Island Swamp. I went to do for Dogman weekend. I went over to Bayou Sauvage and did some recording. But other than that, I haven't been anywhere, man, where I even think those creatures would be.
Yeah. And I don't blame you. I've just a real quick backstory. I was a police officer in Alabama for about 15 years. And a good group of guys there with me, we would go on these little investigations. And, like you said, it's a different feeling you get when you're out there alone. I mean, we all grew up in the woods. Grew up hunting and fishing and whatever down there. But when something's around that's not normally supposed to be around, you know it. And you feel it. And you probably better start praying. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, absolutely. You better start praying. Absolutely.
Because it's
my instincts were. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's just a different feeling. I mean, and especially if you're a believer, you have like maybe discernment. I mean, you can tell what's evil and what's just kind of naturally there, but you can kind of sense the evil,
No, I agree with you. And with you being in law enforcement before, then for a fact, there's ways to tell when people are lying to you, when people are exaggerating. Oh, yeah. And when I tell you that the people that I talk to are not lying or exaggerating, these are people who are recounting real experiences and real encounters. And even though we're on the phone and I'm not physically sitting in front of them, there's still these tales that you get. Like, even when I tell my story, when I was out in Taylor, Mississippi with Skip, like, when I start to relive it and I start to see it again, you'll notice I'm hesitant and I just slow down and I'm just like, oh, crap, I don't want to talk about this. Because in order for me to tell you about it, I have to put myself back in that moment to really relay that story to you. And when someone's telling the truth because they go through that same process. And I hear it over and over and over again, man, especially when it comes to that particular topic, dog, man. The people who've really seen it, and I've talked to law enforcement, I've talked to EMS who've seen it, I've talked to state troopers, I've talked to Border Patrol agents, I've talked to park rangers, and we talking about people who are not just calling to be on a show or calling because they want to be popular. People are literally calling saying, hey, man, I've been researching this topic and I listened to a whole bunch of stuff. You seem like you're the only person that really knows what's going on. What the hell did I see? And once I try and explain it to them, they're like, holy crap, that was real? I'm like, yeah, that was real, bro. Like, for real. Well, what do I do? Just don't go over there anymore. You should be fine. But
yeah.
I tell you and I say this with all due respect. Like, our men and women in the military are brave, but sometimes they look crazy, man. Like, some of our veterans are like, they're loose cannons. The only people that I know that have actually went looking for dogmen were veterans who had encounters with them and got pissed off and went looking for them. And it didn't go well for any of them. Not one of them did it go well for at all. And I'm not talking about like regular guys. I'm talking about Billy Bad behind, 6 tours in Iraq type dudes. You know what I'm saying? And and some of the worst, and I use the word worst, some of the worst nefarious individuals that I've talked to who operate in the cryptid arenas, they won't even go looking for that creature. They'll go looking for anything else. They won't go looking for that. They won't go looking for dogman, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I've heard stories, not personally, but even stories from you, but other stories across internationally where the hardened like Navy SEAL or Airborne Ranger, these guys have come up against something like that, and it turns them into a completely different person. They just can't fathom what they're seeing. They can't handle what they're up against, and it's like you said, it just went bad for them.
I'll tell you one that I never told anybody. I got a call from a gentleman who, I don't know if you call it special ops, black ops. I get all this stuff confused with it. Anyway, he's in Panama, and it's him and 3 of his guys, and they're doing a little, I guess you call it operation, and they end up in the woods, in the jungles in Panama, and they come across what I like to call the worst, one of the worst freaking dogmen you can find. They call it like type 1, type 2. This thing is like Mack truck, big, crazy, just tearing up the woods. And they engage it with gunfire, and they come to realize that the freaking thing is moving so fast that not only are they not hitting it, but it's moving fast enough to where it's circling them, and as it's circling, it's closing in the radius of the circle, the radius of the circle each time. So it literally ran circles around them, closing in on them. And that's how fast it was. Knocking over, literally, we're not talking about woods, we're talking about jungle. Knocking over trees in a jungle. Going from twos on two legs to 4 legs to avoid their bullets. And I was like, bro, when he first told me the story, I'm like, all right, I've heard a lot of dogman stories. I heard a lot, and I know that area he's talking about, they have them in that area. So, but I never spoke about it. So I was like, okay, well, let me go back and look and see who else may have done a story about this. So I kind of do a quick dogman internet search and da da da. I don't find anything. We get back on the phone and I'm talking to him again. I'm like, okay, so this guy actually is telling me the truth, because nobody really, I don't disclose a whole bunch of the locations, and nobody really knows about this particular area. And so he goes even further and is like, well, man, how did you get out of the situation? He said, man, we had to use explosive ordinances to get out of the situation. And he's like, that was the only thing that turned this thing back. And I was like, wow. And I've talked to people in the same geographical region that live in that geographical region who've had dogman encounters as well. And the most frightening thing about it is, and to me, I don't think, even if they would have followed the rules that I tell people, I don't think, it wouldn't have attacked them. Just because of what it was and the version of it was, which I don't really want to get into that. But I'll tell you, there's 2 thoughts processes. Remember I was telling you about the kind of the whiteboard, imagine the demonic manifestation and the physical manifestation, then they go into these different types, right? Well, if you just were to draw a line under the physical manifestation and you kind of did an org chart, right? You have what descriptions of people that I've talked to and drawings that people have sent me of what seems to be like a version 1 of something, and then you get to like, it's like an upgraded version. Then it's like, having an iPhone 1 versus the iPhone 10. They were dealing with an iPhone 10, period. Yeah. Hands down, mega killing machine. And that was all there was to it. And if you read between the lines of what I'm saying, you'll understand where I'm going with that. But it's...
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to choose my words carefully because you never know who hears what. You don't get to the point to where you have an upright walking canine creature. You don't just get to that point. You know what I'm saying? You don't just evolve to that point is what I'm going to say.
Right. And, I mean, you can look back thousands of years, even to Egyptology, Anubis. I mean, they had, there's cave art, cave dwellings art is all over the place, all over the world of a dog-headed man. So I think it, I may be wrong, but I'm thinking it's kind of totally demonic. But like you said, there's 2 sides of it. I mean, one's flesh and blood, and the other one could be demonic. So I don't know. We're just scratching the surface of a very big topic.
No, I mean, so let me put it to you like this. If you go back and you look at Anubis, right, and depict the drawings of Anubis, there is a version of Dogman that fits that description, like literally that exact description. The super pointy ears, Anubis looks like a Doberman Pinscher on steroids, right? There's that, literally that description. This thing is Anubis on steroids. And that's the point I'm making. So somewhere along the lines, somehow, some way, at some point in time, something was modified or altered. In the Bible, it says that, the fallen angels came down and they slept with women and they corrupted everything that was, that God created, even the animals, right? And
Right.
God turned around and he said, okay, y'all messing around. This is a cosmic game of chess and cosmic warfare. You know what? I'm going to flood all y'all, right? He kept Noah. He kept his family. He kept specific animals that God actually sent to the ark. They got in the ark, and if you read the Bible, it says that he closed the ark up himself. God closed the ark, right? Flooded everything else because pretty much the genes and the genetic bloodlines were no longer pure. How they got, some people want to argue, well, there were no angels, they were aliens. I'm not going to go there. It clearly states that something went wrong in the genome, right? And what I propose to people is that, okay, well, just maybe somebody figured out how to go back and start doing wrong again, because that's what it seems like to me. Except for this time, they just bugging out. Like, whoever's doing it just lost their mind. Like, why would you create something like that? So.
Right. Well, yeah, like I said, we're scratching the surface of a big theory. I mean, I'm not so sure even the military is not involved in a lot of like super soldier kind of experiments, and who knows how far that goes back. And it's any kind of gene manipulation, anything they can do to get the upper hand on their enemy.
Well, we know for a fact that the Nazis were working on gene editing during World War II. We know for a fact that there was Operation Paperclip, where America brought over 35,000 Nazi scientists and mathematicians.
Oh, yeah.
So we know there's a way to trace it back, to where all of it came from. There's a reason why they put out movies in Hollywood about, people going to invade Nazi base and there being freaking super soldiers in there. Like, it's literally in front of people's faces. It's just disguised as entertainment. And that's one of the reasons why I put my truth out as entertainment, because at the end of the day, this interview with you, is effective, right? It's really, really effective to tell people stuff, but, it can go through one ear and out the other ear, but when you put it in a story format where people can actually digest the truth and then kind of let it bounce around in their mind, they can visualize it, it really sinks home with them. So, I'm just happy that people are taking to it and they're understanding what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, man, I could talk to you for the next 3 days about a lot of these topics, but I don't want to keep you too much longer. I just want to thank you so much. I mean, it's an honor to get to speak with you and have you on. And if you don't mind, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and, your story. I know you have a YouTube channel up and a website, and you're a pretty regular guest on a lot of the other bigger podcasts and the bigger radio stations. So if you don't mind, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, the best place to find my content now is at iamdogwaters.com. I kind of took a stance with YouTube talking about their censorship and their demonetization, so they've been punishing me like hardcore.
Oh, no.
Like, I was shadow banned before, but it's ridiculous now. So the best place to go is to iamdogwaters.com. On the homepage, you'll get a chance to click and listen to free stories. It's a membership web-based website, but you still have access to a lot of stuff where you click it and listen for free, because I have just that much content. So iamdogwaters.com is where you go. And then there's Dog Waters Radio, which is on that website as well. You click on the right-hand side. It streams content 24 hours that you can listen to. And there's what's the day? Thursday? So tomorrow night starts, I think it's Dogman Stories from 9:30 till, 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. So there's plenty of content at my website for you to enjoy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And if I ever get back down to New Orleans, I want to meet up with you, maybe go to Cafe Du Monde and have a beignet or four. So.
Oh, yeah, you just give me a holler when you're down here. We ain't going to Cafe Du Monde. We're not going to fight with no tourists. We're going to go to the real beignet shop. Well, we don't have to sit down with all the tourists and they breathing all on you, sneezing and coughing. And,
oh, so there's a better spot, huh?
Yeah, you go to City Park where the locals go. You got families there. You got kids playing, people feeding ducks. You go to Cafe Du Monde, man, we'll be standing in line for like 2 hours to get some sugar, basically.
Oh. Well, forget that. But
sugar high.
Well, I will definitely holler at you if I get down there, man. If you ever make it up to Nashville, holler at me. We'll hook up.
No, I definitely will. I've had some of the best times of my life in Nashville, man. As a younger man, hanging out with Eddie George and Steve McNair. That's a great city. I love that place.
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, man, thank you again so much for coming on, and I hope to have you back very soon, and we can open up another can of worms because there's plenty to do.
Sounds good to me. Any can you want open, man, we can do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, man. You have a good night.
All right, you too, buddy.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Mysterious Huntsman, Episode 4, Interview with Dark Waters. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And remember, if you have any story that you think we need to hear, you can email me at mysteriousHuntsman@gmail.com or go to my Facebook page, Mysterious Huntsman. Thanks, guys, and have a great weekend.